What is up, everyone? Welcome back to Jeff Needs Sports. This is the Buckeye remix, last quote unquote regular season remix of the year. Thanks for joining me. Thanks for listening. If you're new to the show, I appreciate you giving me a shot. If you're a returning listener, you're great, and I can't say enough good things about you. So sorry about that. I had some troubles pre-show, so that's why I'm running a little bit behind here, but that's all right. We'll get going, no problem. So that's it, man. Yesterday, Buckeyes Big Ten championship game. They won their fourth in a row. It was a fight, a battle. They gritted it out, a 22-10 victory over Northwestern. So main thing is we got the job done. And another shout out to get out of the way. Trey Sermon broke the single game Ohio State rushing record, 331 yards and 2 touchdowns. Awesome performance by him. He stuck with it all year. We've talked about it on this show several times. He wasn't always the featured back and sometimes took a back seat, but when he came in, it felt like he always pass blocked like he needed to. He always did what was asked of him. He got big yards this year. He's obviously a good player, and he showed up when the Buckeyes had to abandon the passing game, which we'll talk about here in a few minutes. They just basically gave the ball to Sermon and said, go get this win. And he did, and he went and got a championship, and he broke the record. And he did it in a game that mattered, so I have no problem with him. Eddie George is a legend. I watched him play. I'm old enough, to have seen him play. I was actually in the area when he did it. That day was a special day. But, Trey, that's cool, man. You're more than welcome to it. We needed you. You showed up. Appreciate it. So just want to get that out of the way before I forgot about it. So knee jerks. So basically what this game boiled down to is, how good do you think Northwestern is? Okay. So if you believe, and you're allowed, because this is where they're ranked. If you've watched them, whatever, if you believe that Northwestern was is a really, really good team, the 14th best team in the country, one of the best defenses in the country, and everything that we're told, then you have no problem with this game. And it's a solid victory over the number 14 team. You got out there, Big Ten championship, and almost certainly a shot at the playoffs. That's what you wanted out of that game. That's the first thing. If you're more on my side, to where I don't believe, I say this, Northwestern deserved to be ranked where they were at 14. I have no problem with the ranking. I don't think they're the 14th best team in the country, and I don't think they're all that good, especially their offense. Their defense plays really well. It's not a crazy, technical defense. They disguise a little, but they pretty much just, put 4 guys across the back, playing tight zone, and they really want to get, turnovers, and they want opportunistic defense, and they want you to play in front of them. And they did that to Ohio State, to probably a little concerning thing. So if you're like me, I don't believe that Northwestern is all that great. I don't think that they beat most of the other teams that I watched yesterday, and we couldn't, get a passing yard on them. So that concerns me. So that there's the two camps. If you think Northwestern's good, you had a great day. If you're like me and you think they're all right, wasn't quite as good a day. So, that's where we're at with that. So, my knee jerks were, we weren't quite ready for that game. Northwestern, this is what they do. We had 2 weeks because of the Michigan game being canceled. We had 2 weeks. We knew Northwestern was in the game. Everybody had 2 weeks to watch the film, and we played right into their hands. We did everything they wanted us to do. They made Fields run out of the pocket. They made him throw across his body. They waited. They sat back and waited for, tip balls, or they let the receivers run across them. They didn't chase them around. They didn't try to cover them, man on man through the zones. It worked. The receivers weren't great on the routes. They didn't give Fields a lot of help. Fields, a lot of times when he looked out there, he looked out, glanced, he essentially just saw 4 guys standing there and then scrambled. And we saw a little bit of that in Indiana. So that's twice this year that, it's a little concerning. It just, to me, they felt like there was a lot of, lowering your heads, shaking your heads, and early in the game when Northwestern was really taking it to the Buckeyes, especially in the first quarter. A bad timeout on a first drive. I'm a big guy about saving your timeouts. We call a timeout on the first drive of the game. The holding penalty, it was a hold. They called it. You know, we all know that changes the game, but there's no reason that should have factored in, you know, long term in that game. The talent difference in this game is astronomical. So my knee jerks where I was a little concerned by what I saw. But another one is super happy. We go over there every year and watch a game. Of course, we couldn't go this year. Still love it. It's a great place to play, great place to watch a game. And there's nothing wrong with getting a conference championship. I just want to say that. Awesome job for the guys. They were down all the players. That is huge. I'm sure the practice time has been cut down so far because of the COVID situation, and it should be. You know, so there are hardly any reps in the last month for this team, honestly. They haven't had a chance to learn this year from a game like this. Like, they needed to play a game like this, you know, halfway through the season, learn from it, have, you know, Fields have the tape to watch, go in, see, recognize stuff, especially like if they got Clemson coming up, which we assume they will. Clemson plays a similar type of defense. Like, obviously the athletes are better and everything, but as far as like, you know, disguising their looks and zones and what the safeties do and stuff, that would have been nice to have. So, you know, I'm not going to crush him for it, but it was definitely concerning. So we'll talk about the offense. Fields flat out struggled. There's no two ways about it. 12 for 27, 114 yards, 2 interceptions. Quarterback rating was 34 yesterday. There is no way to mask, you know, how bad of a game he had. I never say he played bad. I mean, he's trying. But you can't cover that up. I mean, that was a bad game. We couldn't throw our way out of that game against Northwestern. And if once again, if you want to think Northwestern's the best pass defense in the country, fine. But if you don't, it's concerning. I mean, there's a couple big pass plays in there, but very, very few that even mattered. Most of them are wasted. 2 interceptions. My gosh. You know, running around, bad sacks. Just a real tough game for Fields. And I won't sit here and I know why. You don't know what's happened in the last 2 weeks of getting ready for the game. So I'm not going to sit here. It's not going to act like he's bad, but there's definitely chinks in the armor. There's definitely concerns. There's definitely things that he needs to learn, definitely things he needs to see, you know, to move forward in his career. No doubt that he can. You know, this is one game out of what's he up to now, like 20, you know, about 20 games. So, but definitely concerns. You know, once again, we talked about Trey Sermon. They finally just abandoned the run. And now, to Fields' credit, I will say this: the reason that Northwestern played the defense they did, they wanted to do that to Fields, and they wanted to force us to run. So Fields' ability and our receivers' ability did determine the type of defense that Northwestern played. You know, they had to commit all those guys, and then that left the running lanes open, and Trey Sermon took advantage of it in the biggest way possible. We just talked about it. 331 yards, 2 touchdowns, total mismatch. So Fields is part of the reason Northwestern played the way they did. So that did open up running lanes. So you do get credit for that. 500 yards in offense is 500 yards in offense. I don't care. So I just want to get that out there, that, like, you know, Fields being on the field does change a defense, even if he played as bad as he did and played into their hands. So, you know, that's where we go with that. Essentially, offensive line pushed Northwestern around. Sermon, it was a mismatch. And Teague, probably, if they'd have put Teague in, he probably would have had a couple hundred yards. Like, total mismatch on the ground game. They should have went to it. You know, I even said this earlier in the week. This isn't, you know, hindsight. I said earlier in the week that High State should just go into this game, run the ball as much as they can, and get out of there. Once they figured that out, total mismatch, you know, good for them. The defense, you know, Hilliard, what a great game. What a great game that guy had. Browning was out yesterday. Hilliard, you know, played most of that time. All over the field, big tackles, you know, forced fumbles, fumble recoveries. A great interception after Northwestern had a fantastic Let's talk about that real quick. Northwestern has that one, you know, great interception, totally deserved. Fields, you know, not his best throw. Northwestern, if we score on that drive and we're down in the end zone at the end of the first half, that's another one of those to where this game gets out of hand. But it didn't. So Northwestern gets that interception. Then Northwestern's driving, same situation. Hilliard comes up with a great interception. I mean, a really standout play for him. That was huge. Turned the game around. Honestly, ended the game for Northwestern, that interception. So great game by Hilliard. Just all over the place in a depleted, you know, team. What else we got? What else I got on here? And then in the second half, just totally shut down Northwestern. I mean, they had Ramsey just kind of jogging from side to side, throwing the ball, every which way. Never really a threat. And as far the defense gave up 10 points yesterday too. Once again, a 14th ranked team. Do with it what you want. I don't care what you do with that information. That's totally up to you. They held them to 10. They held them to 10 points. Nothing in the second half. Absolutely nothing in the second half. So defense showed up yesterday when they needed to, and got the job done. So that's cool. That's great. It really is great. But do we want to? I'm not going to spend this whole show having this discussion. Corners did not look great yesterday. They picked on Seven Banks a little. That guy's a playmaker, but he's got a long way to go. And I understand, and that's fine. He's young. I get it. But when Northwestern's picking on you, once again, this is coming from a guy I don't really think Northwestern is a terrific offense. And when they're picking on you, that says something. Wade is Wade, man. The whole country sees it. Scouts see it. A lot of guys I talk to that are, that do this for a living on Twitter, they see it. There's concerns about Wade. Once I say it every week, he is going to have a position in the NFL. He's going to work it out. They'll get him in the right spot. It's going to be fine. It is not what he's doing now. He is uncomfortable out there. It doesn't suit him. The defense can't work around him. It causes problems on the safeties. He's just all right out there. And maybe here in a few minutes we'll talk about the playoffs. But it's still concerned. The corners are a concern. Hey, how about Proctor yesterday? So me and Jay Stevens from Locked On Buckeyes podcast discussed all year about we need to get Proctor more involved just because he's so downhill. He's so quick twitch. He's so aggressive. There's a spot for him on the team, to cause havoc. Comes up with a great interception yesterday. What a wonderful interception. Good morning, Mom. How are you today? Wonderful interception by Proctor. I like watching the kid play. But see, there's a guy that that's his position. That is his position. Sit back, be aggressive. You're not gonna switch him to a coverage corner. I mean, he's not that terrible in coverage, but he's more of a downhill in the box, aggressive safety. Did a great job yesterday. I like the guy. Good for him. Yeah, he showed up last year in the Big Ten championship game. He showed up this year. So Josh Proctor, man, nice game. Me and Jay's been waiting on you all year, man. But you did it. So there are a lot of good things to be said about the defense yesterday. Honestly, still don't have an edge rusher. I don't know what to do. It just is what it is. That speed rusher is he's not coming. He's not showing up. He's not magically going to appear on the field. We got to do with what we got to do. Let's talk about coaching for a second. Now, this is a subject that I can go into a little bit because these guys are, they're as old as me. They can take it. They're grown men. They get paid to do what they do. I've always said this. They get paid. They can take the criticism. The players are just out there doing their job. They're young. They make mistakes. I'm not too hard on them personally. Coaches, you basically say whatever you want about because I know they have a lot on their plate, but you know what I mean? We pay them, and I live in the state of Ohio, so I actually pay them, so I can really say whatever I want about them. I probably not donate, but maybe 10 cents of my taxes go to them every year. So it is what it is. It's totally unprepared. 2 weeks, and they acted like Northwestern like they're playing a different team. Like Northwestern has ran this defense from day one for probably 3 or 4 years now. Under Pat Fitzgerald, maybe more. This is what he does, and they played right into their hands. Like Fields looked like a guy that had been coached to play a completely different team. And then it looked like, I don't know if anybody's a fan of the Rocky movies. I believe it was Rocky 2. Maybe it was 1. I apologize. Those are kind of the same movie to me. Anyway, when Rocky trained, all year to fight right-handed, then he was going to switch to southpaw at the last minute. And, when it came and then, to catch Apollo off guard, that's what this game looked like. Fields was out there looking like he had never seen this defense before. And I'm like, first of all, you had 2 weeks, but you had years of this of video. This is what they're going to do, and you had nothing. Like they didn't adjust anything. Their receivers didn't. It looked like years ago when we used to complain about Tressel. Everybody used to give him a hard time, but this is what he did. Like he ran the same offense no matter what the defense did, and he let the defense dictate. I mean, he never adjusted. They never adjusted the pass routes. They never the tight end. How do you not implement a tight end versus this type of zone defense. Like if they're playing a quarters defense, it's literally, your tight ends and your H-backs got to get involved. And I know and Jigba was out, but come on. I just and then once again the players looked rattled, like as if they didn't know what was coming. To me, that's all coaching. Like your coach has to prepare you for the moment. That's his job. Every year when you go to this Big Ten championship game, you're going to have young players, guys who haven't been there, guys who haven't maybe started in this position. They had to be ready. Like that team looked like, oh man, I can't believe, we're doing this or whatever. And I don't know about y'all, but I started getting that Iowa, Michigan State, Purdue feeling early in that game. And I apologize to the Buckeyes. They pulled it out, but that's the feeling I started getting, like this team is about to just, throw in the towel. I was really getting concerned. They didn't. Still, they looked rattled. Once again, you're taking timeouts on the first drive of the game because of, we saw the second half how like simple it was. Like hand the ball to the running back and go. There's no reason we should be calling timeouts 10 yards from the end zone in the first quarter of a game that you had 2 weeks to get ready for. So I really, really was hard on the coaches yesterday. I understand they made adjustments, especially the defensive coaches, but just in general, that's not the team that we needed to see or wanted to see. I understand once again, I'm probably too hard on them. There's probably been a lot of practice time they've lost. They're probably trying to do all this through Zoom meetings, trying to keep, and honestly, I would imagine they're so focused on keeping Justin Fields away from everybody in the entire world that there's probably a ton of Zoom meetings and they're not that face-to-face contact is not there. And I know that affects it. So I'm sure I'm being too hard on them, but we saw it. It is what it is, but congratulations coaching staff. Undefeated season, Big Ten championship, nothing to, you don't have to apologize to me. That's for sure. All right. So let's look at the grade card here. Let's see what my last grade card. Well, it won't be my last of the year, but that's the rankings. Wow, man, give you a sneak peek at my final rankings of the year, didn't I? Wow. You didn't expect that. So here we go with the report card. The quarterback, man, this is crazy. I gave him a C-. Really never made an adjustment, looked flustered. I hope his hand's all right. I really do. I like Justin Fields, but I got a grade on what I saw. I'll just say it again, 114 yards, 2 interceptions, just completely null and void this game. Really didn't even, ran the ball right, but didn't take over with these legs. Just a lot going on there. So sorry, Justin, but C-, buddy. You'll be fine. You'll be fine. You can take it. I don't think you're worried about a C- from, a podcaster in Central Ohio. Wide receivers, I gave him a B-. Olave was out. I didn't feel they really stepped up in his role. I don't know how much that affected Fields. And if it did, a lot of people were saying Olave out affected Fields. Well, wide receivers get sprained ankles and stuff all the time. If you're starting quarterback that you think is a second pick in the NFL draft, can't play without one wide receiver when you've got maybe the best top to bottom wide receiving core, second best in the country. Alabama absolutely has the best wide receiving core in the country because Devontae Smith is an alien. I don't know if anybody watched Devontae Smith last night. He's an alien. If you can't play without one receiver, that's trouble. And I know Olave is great, and he would have helped this game, but you got to adjust. Garrett Wilson's great. I think he had one great catch that really did help, but just wasn't there. Just never felt comfortable. They just felt like they didn't adjust their routes. They were running behind guys and defenders instead of in front of them. It just didn't mesh. But I gave them a credit. The B- is essentially their downfield blocking was awesome. They never gave up on that, and they made huge gouging holes in the secondary for Sermon. So they get full credit. They get an A for downfield blocking and a C for route running, basically. So it comes into like a B-. Running back, how do I not give them an A+ when you set the record? When we needed you, they're literally just hand you the ball, and in 2.5 quarters, you run for 331 yards, 2 touchdowns. Absolutely could have had another one easily at the end of the game. I know, I don't blame Ryan Day for not going for that at the end of the game, by the way. But Sermon easily gets in if he wants to at the end of that game. Could have been a 335 and 3 touchdown day, historic day in college football. So running backs getting A+. T looked fine when he was in, but they just, it was Sermon's day. So good for him. Great job by Sermon in the running backs. Offensive line, I thought they did really good. Pass protection, they let guys run free a little bit on Fields, and then he was flustered. But since they abandoned the pass, the offensive line absolutely manhandled them. We're a juggernaut in run blocking. So the offensive line gets a B plus because they were just pushing guys around. The center. It was nice to have everybody back in position this week. We weren't throwing 90-mile-an-hour fastballs back to Fields every snap. I thought the offensive line did a really nice job, and Northwestern's a tough team to play against. I mean, they got a stout defensive line. They know what they're doing. A lot of movement up there. And then, but when it was run blocking, they just pushed everybody out of the way. So offensive line, nice job. Defensive line, pretty good job once again. I know I just keep going back to this, but no edge rush. Tyreek's pretty good, but there's no speed rush off the edge. That's fine. They're not there, so I can't hold it against them that they just don't have. The Chase Young's not there. He's not. He had a year of eligibility left if he was to come back for the playoff game. We'll take him, but he's not there. No big deal. But they played pretty good. I mean, obviously, Northwestern had 0 points in the second half. Defensive line, and they like to run the ball. Defensive line had a lot to do with that. They pushed Ramsey out of the pocket enough. Ramsey is what he is. I don't know. But what I will say, what they did, and Ramsey loves this. Anybody that remembers the Indiana games, Ramsey loves this. He loves to drop back. Everybody, they vacate the middle. The linebackers, are in coverage or whatever. And then Ramsey likes to take off on those, either design draws or, just take advantage of the vacated middle. We didn't give a bunch of those goofy plays up that we hate so much. Even if it was just grabbing an ankle or something, that is huge because Ramsey counts on that. Just like, I don't know if you remember, like all the times we play Penn State, like there's always just this big zone, huge lane up the middle that the quarterbacks take advantage of. They did clog those up. The interior defensive line is spectacular. They've done spectacular all season. Good for them. So yeah, defensive line gets a B plus, just because not a huge pass rush, but really solid game. Linebackers, I give them an A. We talked about Hilliard, big interception. Warner did his thing. He quietly, makes tackles and stuff. It's just a position he plays. Did a good job. Once again, 0 points in the second half. How could the linebackers not have played good? But Hilliard really stood out and jumped up. This is what a guy should do that the receivers didn't do yesterday. This is what a guy should do. Browning's out. Hilliard comes in and plays as good or better than Browning played all year. I mean, we don't know how Browning would have played in this game. He'd have been fine. But what I'm saying is Hilliard stepped up and did it. Linebackers were good. They had a little bit of responsibility in this game. Once again, it's like what you got to do with Northwestern. You can't give up these freakish long runs because that's the only thing that's going to kill you. Make them, make their offense beat you, and they did, and they didn't. It worked. Good job for the linebackers. One of their best probably games of the year. And once again, if you think Northwestern's great, then awesome. The linebackers were fantastic yesterday. Defense was fantastic against number 14 team in the country. We'll get to that in a second. Defensive backs, we talked about it. Proctor did good. Banks, I don't know, he made a good play here, but I mean, they targeted him a little here. They weren't scared of him. Wade is good enough. Like Northwestern, doesn't have the guy, to test Wade. So, he did his job. They didn't give up, they gave up, 224 yards to Ramsey on 24 throws. They had a couple good drives early on, but I give them a B. I give them a B minus. It was all right, and then we come up with an interception. Didn't have a lot of missed tackles. They didn't look silly or anything like that, but they also didn't get tested. They did. If anybody saw the Alabama-Florida game last night, those defensive backs were working. I mean, those dudes. They was on overtime last night, So, I can only grade them for what I saw. Defensive backs were fine. They were fine yesterday. Head coach, we talked about it. Head coach, coaching staff, USC. I already told you why. I'm prepared. I thought the team looked a little rattled, looked a little discouraged. I know they're all stressed out. This has been a tough month for them. That's what coaches do. I'm sorry, but if we're going to compare Ryan Day, I hold Ohio State football up there in the top 5 or 6 programs in the country. So when I'm watching Clemson, when I'm watching Alabama, when I'm watching Florida, and I'm watching how these teams react and how they play and how they rally, I think Florida wound up being down close to, I think maybe at some point was 17. They come back to get it. They kept fighting. When I see, their players in motion and stuff, and I judge ours by it. And when there's a lot of head hanging and eye rolling and shaking and acting like they don't know what's going to go on, I'm sorry, I'm going to hold it against you. But that's just one game. But the conversation's there. I'm a huge Tressel guy. I'm older. Tressel changed my life when he came in and turned that program. I won't say turned it around, but took him to the next step, changed the program, changed the culture back in '01. And, and he did it for, what was it, about 10 years. And he took a lot of crap for it. It was always funny. It was all Tressel ball. Like, he just, he wants to punt. He wants to kick field goals. He wants to play defense, win by 7 points. Why, he's got all this talent. Why doesn't he just go for it? So, when we see that yesterday and then Day has to do that, I want to say sometimes you got to do that. You know what I mean? Like it's sometimes Tressel ball works. There's a reason. And the guy was one of the greatest coaches of all time and won a Ohio State national championship. So sometimes you coach to the situation. And I think Day, coming out of the locker room, they essentially were like, let's run the ball and, see what happens, and don't take chances downfield and whatever. They kind of came around, but just in general, I didn't think the team looked super prepared. But I thought defensive coaches did a pretty good job. Obviously, Hilliard was ready. I love Brian Hartline. Wide receivers looked a little lost out there. I don't think Northwestern's that good in the secondary that these wide receivers couldn't find space. Fleming really. You got a freshman. I feel bad, but just didn't. I don't know. He kind of shrunk a little bit, but that's fine, man. They got it. That most important is they got it done. So head coach, you get to see. So that's it for the remix. I know I felt like I was being hard on him, but if I do for Off the Ball Network, I'm also like kind of the college football guy. So I can't watch these games and act like I don't see them. As much as I love the Buckeyes, I can also admit, what I'm seeing on the field is two different things. I'm super excited that we won the game, got a Big Ten championship. I'm super excited that more than likely there's probably 99% chance we get in the playoffs. But I can't see the weaknesses in the team and not call it out. Then that would be silly of me to do. And I've got my reputation. I got credibility. I got to tell you what I see on the field. And none of this is unfixable, but it's also concerning if you watched all the games yesterday. So hopefully Northwestern's the best team in the country, and I'm wrong about all this. That would be the best thing that would happen. So that's it. Great job, Buckeyes. It was a tough season to fight through, a lot of adversity. Some of it, it was nuts. Mainly you deserve the decision to let you in there. You're 6-0. You got a shot at the playoffs. That's what you wanted. We don't know who's all really going to play yet. Like as far as the protocols and all that, we're not going to worry about that right now. But you did your thing. You got 6 games in. We got to see you play as Buckeye fans. We that's huge for us on a Saturday. So as hard as I am on you, it still makes my day. Even when you play a little sluggish like yesterday, it's fine. It's fine. It's fine. So here we go. I'm gonna give you everybody a sneak peek at my final rankings here. I'll make a little space for my rankings. Sorry, left-handed. There we go. Over here. So here's the way I see it. Before they come out, they're coming out at noon today. If anybody's interested, anybody's watching now, we're going to do a reaction show later. I'm going to host a reaction show later on the college football playoff final rankings, the official ones from the network. So anyway, if anybody wants to check that out. And sorry about that. Had a comment. So yeah, I got Alabama 1. I got Clemson 2. There's nobody on this planet or another planet. I don't care if it's Jupiter, Mercury. Everybody knows Alabama and Clemson are 1 and 2. I got Ohio State 3 because of Notre Dame getting boat raced. I saw it. It's once again and here's what I found out yesterday on Twitter. Talking college football on Twitter is it's exhausting. Fans are passionate. They love their teams. Notre Dame fans are sticking to that Clemson win in the middle of the year. My viewpoint is that the beatdown yesterday negates what they did. Then I'm just saying, it took them to triple overtime, and then they get without Lawrence, and then you get Lawrence back, and it was both sides of the ball played better because you're not settling for field goals. The pressure he puts on the defense, that was the realistic game that I thought I'd see. And man, Clemson it wasn't even close. Notre Dame was so. My thoughts on Notre Dame, you'll see here. So I'll go through these real quick for the audio listeners. I apologize, guys. If you're driving to work, be safe. I hope you're having a good day. And if you're hanging out at home and working, whatever, I hope you're having a good day wherever you're at listening to this. I appreciate it. So I got High State at 3, mainly because, the Notre Dame loss. I got Texas A&M up in at 4. We'll go over it in a minute. I've actually had the Florida Gators at 5th in the country. I watched the game last night. I do not care. I don't care what the final rankings say. I don't care what any of the bobbleheads at ESPN or any of the networks say. Florida is probably the 3rd best team in the country this morning. I understand they lost to LSU. It happened. I get it. I get the losses. We're all stuck on losses in college football. Losses. Nobody cares about wins because Florida's got 8 wins. Ohio State has 6, but that doesn't matter. It goes by losses. Totally get it. I don't care. I only got Florida at 5th because I know they're not letting them in the playoffs. To me, they're the 3rd best team in the country on field today on a neutral site, and I'll stand by that. I do not care. I get Notre Dame at 6th. I think they probably are the 6th best team in the country. Honestly, I think them and the Buckeyes are really, 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 really close. Once again, Notre Dame lost and the Buckeyes played 6 games. That's a real thing. Good for the Buckeyes, but I don't think there's a big difference between Notre Dame and Ohio State. And probably, I would say on a neutral field, Notre Dame would be favored by 2 or 3. I really do. But they're still at 6th. And a lot of people think they're still in at 4. That's fine. I will not say that. And if they are in at 4, I will say it in the reaction show. I'll say it ahead of time. They don't deserve to be. And mainly this. So here's what you're going to do. You got 130 some college football teams. So you're going to tell me that you're going to watch Clemson, shove Notre Dame around, completely blow them out of the water. And then now you're going to put Notre Dame in at 4, and you're going to tell me there's a shot that I'm going to see the 3rd Notre Dame Clemson game for my national championship in 2020, after we fought to have all these games, after, all the rescheduling, the cancellations, the arguments, the rules, the not rules, the uneven schedules, records, everything. You're going to tell me you're going to give me a national championship game of Clemson Notre Dame. Thanks. That's awesome. I can't wait to see the 3rd one after you see. And then here's the argument. I know what you're thinking right now, what everybody's thinking. Doesn't matter. Notre Dame's not beating Alabama. There's 2 things about that. If they can't beat Alabama, if they have no chance to beat Alabama, then the committee needs to not put them in. Why would you put a team in that has no chance to beat Alabama? I'm just saying, and then they do have a chance to beat Alabama because Ohio State was in this position 6 years ago, and we beat Alabama with a backup quarterback. So yeah, it can happen. We don't know that Mac Jones, I'm not wishing this on anybody, but it's football. We don't know Mac Jones doesn't sprain his ankle in the first play of the game. We saw it happen to Tua last year and cost him a chance at the national championship. So if you put Notre Dame at 4, you are absolutely bringing in the possibility of a Notre Dame Clemson 3rd game for the national championship. It's ridiculous. If we know TV and money is pushing this thing, then you can't do that to me. So that's why I think Notre Dame gets left out. And yes, I know Texas A&M Alabama's a rematch. Guess what? We didn't just see it yesterday. And I said when the first rankings came out that they painted themselves in a corner when they put Texas A&M at 5. This is what they stuck themselves with. So they did it to themselves. But most people don't remember that Texas A&M Alabama game, except for those, most of those fan bases. It was so long ago. So your casual fan will still watch that championship game, and they don't have a memory in their head of 3 weeks ago. The beatdown. If Texas A&M and Alabama played yesterday and the same thing happened, I'd tell you the same thing about. And if Notre Dame and Clemson only played once, maybe. Come on, they've played twice, and it wasn't close. It wasn't close. I'm sorry. So what's the sense in, basically they shouldn't have played the games yesterday if that's how they're going to see it. So anyway, enough about that. I got Notre Dame at 6. I got Oklahoma at 7. Actually, I honestly 100% truly believe that yesterday Oklahoma was a better team than Ohio State, and I stand by that. And I know, so here's the problem I get. I'll share some of my Twitter issues with you guys. Here's the problem I get. So I'm going to sit here and say that I think Oklahoma looked better than Ohio State yesterday, and everybody gets on me and says, well, Oklahoma played Iowa State. So now what we've said is Iowa State's terrible, even though they're ranked 6th, but Northwestern's not, and they're ranked 14th. This is how it goes on Twitter. So I can't have the conversation. I'm just telling you what I saw. I think yesterday Oklahoma looked like a better team than Ohio State. and they've looked great for 7 weeks in a row, and they've turned it around. There needs to be an 18 playoff, and they need to get in. That's a different show. We'll talk about that later on the reaction show. But Oklahoma looked good. I don't understand why it's this loss column that we're stuck on. And I know it matters, but then the criteria needs to change. Then we need to be like, hey, if you lose in September, it means this much. If you lose in October, it means this much. If you lose in November, it means this much. If you lose, like, we need to figure out what matters and what doesn't matter, because if we're going to say that Oklahoma's 2 losses early in the season, and they're a much better team since then, matter more than yesterday Notre Dame getting destroyed by Clemson, then I don't know what we're talking about. So I guess we just need to put these teams in one of those Yahtzee cups and just dump them out. Like, I mean, there's no criteria. So I don't care. Oklahoma, I got them at 7, but they absolutely deserve a shot. Whatever. I got Cincinnati at 8 because they're undefeated. Like, they have no chance getting in. They did enough. They won on a field goal. Whatever. That's what I tell you about Cincinnati. Whatever. I don't think there's any team below them that deserves in. That's why I only put 8 this week. If you guys want to argue about where Iowa State goes or Coastal Carolina, that's fine. I totally don't blame you. I didn't have time to go through that because the rankings are actually coming out in like an hour. And then I'm going to talk about this again, but I like to get I just want to put on record, if you're listening to this show came out before the college football rankings came out. So everything you're hearing is not hindsight, it's foresight. I wanted that to be totally clear. And I appreciate everybody's listening and watching today, because as you can tell, I'm a little fired up. I love college football. It's awesome. This is what I do. It doesn't say, my wife always tells me, like, it doesn't look like you're having fun. And I'm like, I know, but I am. Like, even when I'm angry and screaming at the TV and arguing with, the smart and dumb people on Twitter, I love it. This is fun. So that's the way I see it. But I don't know how it's going to go. If Notre Dame gets in, then I just don't know what to tell you. Notre Dame fans tell me, well, they beat Clemson in 3. I whatever. If you think Notre Dame is so I guess here's what I would say. If your argument is that Notre Dame should go in, then I guess Ohio State's 4th and Notre Dame's 3rd, and then Clemson and Notre Dame, because you can't tell me that Notre Dame only dropped 2 spots and Ohio State jumped 2 spots. If your argument is that Notre Dame beat Clemson, Ohio State hasn't beat Clemson. So, like, there's a whole other argument. So then I guess what you're telling me is really Ohio State's 4, Notre Dame's 3rd. So you dropped Notre Dame 1 spot and they got beat by as many as Clemson wanted yesterday. So there you go. So I guess we have, we need to have the Clemson Notre Dame rematch in the first round of the playoffs. That sounds wonderful. Can't wait. That sounded a little negative. I sound a little negative on that one. Anyway, so that's my rankings, guys. I went a tad long, but there was a lot to cover. It's the last big week of college football. So what we'll do from now on is I'll do another one next week. We'll do some previews because I'm really enjoying this, and you guys are really giving me some good feedback. I'm loving doing this. So, and then of course we'll have a preview of whatever bowl game we assume right now. It's we assume right now we'll be 3 playing Clemson, but this committee, we don't know what they're going to do. They might leave Ohio State out. They honestly could leave Ohio State out and whatever. So I'll preview whatever the next game is. And then of course I'll do the review of that game, and hopefully we'll meet here in about a month, and we'll all be high-fiving and telling me how crazy I am and celebrating the national championship. Why not? It'll be 2021. Maybe everything flips over like we think it is. Ohio State flips the switch and boom. You know what I mean? I've been there. I've seen it. We've done it before, but excuse me for that. So I want to thank everybody who watched. I want to thank everybody who listens. Go to offtheballnetwork.com. Check out all my stuff, all the other guys' stuff. Jeff Needs Sports. Had a great show last week. If anybody wants to go back and listen to the show with Lucy Rodine, really awesome show. She's a very talented and a great guest, and really puts out a lot of wonderful content. So I recommend going back and checking out Sports and Jokes with Lucy. Absolutely. I want to thank Jay Stevens just for the conversing back and forth and bouncing ideas off each other. He's got a big Buckeye show, but he's still kind enough to help me out. You know what I mean? Bounce ideas off of me. And things like that, what we're seeing, what we're doing. A lot of support from him. I want to thank all the guys at Off the Ball Network. They love this show. Most of them aren't Buckeyes fans, but they're real supportive. So yeah, that's it. Check out Jeff Needs Sports. Check out Off the Ball Network. Like, shares, listens. You guys know the deal. Anything you can do really, really helps. And once again, I'll be back later today. We're going to do the playoff reactions. And then next week, we'll come up with something. Maybe we'll talk about Ohio State's top quarterbacks of all time Ohio State team. I don't know what we're going to do. We'll have some fun and relax a little bit, preview whatever game's coming up, and just talk Buckeyes. So thanks, everyone. It's been a blast. Go Bucks. Be kind, be safe. Happy holidays and Merry Christmas. I won't see you. So, just have a great week, and enjoy. Thanks, guys.